All right, we are back live. My name is Megan Gilbert, Mental Skills Consultant. I am here with Emma, our social media manager. And today, the last couple weeks, we've just been trying out answering people's questions, whether it's been from athletes or it's been from parents. But this week, we really wanted to answer a couple questions just about what a mental skills consultant really is, what we do, the kinds of people we work with, and the kinds of things that we actually work through as well. So that's really what we're going to be focused in on today. So if you guys have any questions at any point in time, feel free to ask, and we'll go ahead with it. So really where we wanted to start first was, what is a mental skills consultant? What do we do, right? Whether it's, the title of mental skills consultant, the title of mental performance coach, but what is it that we exactly do? And in a nutshell, short answer, we use evidence-based skills and strategies. We teach them to performers, whether that's an individual athlete, a team, hey Adam, an individual athlete, a team, or a business executive, in order to be able to help them improve their performance in some way, whether that's through training, whether that's through actual competition, or whether it's just under adversity, through challenging pressure situations. And that's kind of like the short version of it. But really, we work with individuals across all ages. I mean, I know I've mentioned this before, but the youngest I've really worked with has been around 8. The oldest is upper 50s, lower 60s, somewhere around there. So across the board, age-wise, across all different sports, had, equestrian, have had some of your more traditional sports, have had dancers, have had musicians. So performance really, especially when I think about it and when I'm working with any individual or group or team, we really focus on performance, yes, within whatever aspect, whatever realm, athletics that we're working in, but performance is really across the board. I mean, I perform every day in my job. I perform every day, and I used to perform every day in school, right? There are pressures across the board. So really being able to take the skills and strategies that we work through and apply them in every setting, every situation, so that you're as best prepared as you can be for anything that comes your way, whether that is, through planning, whether that is through setting goals, right? Whether that is through handling pressure situations, managing emotions in those pressure situations. Those are some of the things, some of the areas that we really work on. And then we try to take those and build a plan that anyone can really actively train every day, whether that's through practice, whether that's through workouts, whether that's through just, what you're doing on a day-to-day basis, so that then when it's time to compete, when it's time to perform, we're the best prepared that we can be to tackle whatever situation it may be.
So would you say that almost like a strength coach, like if people go out and practice every single day, their muscles, they're going to get bigger, whatever, but a strength coach kind of hones in on what exactly you need, makes things more tweaked, makes things more better at what you do every single day. That's what you kind of do in terms of the mental side of things and the emotions. Is that kind of a good contrast?
Absolutely. So you get physical reps every day when it comes to practice, when it comes to strength and conditioning, right?
Mm-hmm.
The things that we train, you have to get mental reps in order to improve on them. You can't just go out there one day and say, okay, I'm going to be able to hit the ball under pressure when a college coach is looking at me and say, I got this, let me just go out there and do it, without actually, number one, getting in the cage and figuring out how to do it physically, right?
Yeah.
But then number two, also preparing for how's my body going to be responding at that time? Increased heart rate. What are my thoughts? What's going to be going through my head? I'm going to be thinking more. So how do I dial that in? How do I shift my focus so that I'm focusing on the right things that give me the best opportunity to be able to have success in that moment? You can, I will admit, do that without sitting down one-on-one with someone like me, right? But the more the more we have a plan for how to train that, and the more often we train it and get in those mental reps, the better prepared you are, period. And so we do a lot of times when I'm sitting down with anyone, whether it's a team, whether it's an individual or group setting, we focus, yes, on what they already have at their capability, right? But then we also focus on how can we improve those, and then how can we, minimize the areas that we need that are more of our weak areas, that maybe aren't our strengths.
Well, I mean, if it was easy to control your emotions through physical reps, like professional athletes probably wouldn't have mental coaches, which you've sent me articles all the time about how, like, especially baseball teams, and I think the NBA is starting to get into, in the NFL, they've started hiring people specifically for this stuff.
Oh, definitely. There are a lot of teams at the professional level who either have one person on staff, or they bring in a consultant to speak with their team or their individuals. And there are even ones who have built, teams centered around this with different areas of expertise, right? And they do that so that, in those challenging pressure situations, whether that's on the field, on the court, or off, that they have the skills and strategies to be able to handle them, right? And in those pressure moments, I mean, there's a lot out there right now, with the app Headspace and with mindfulness. That's been a really big thing in the MLB, recently become, more popular specifically in soccer as well. And just being able to, in a pressure moment, be at the best place we can physically, be the best place we can mentally, to be able to settle down, focus on the right things, and then execute on everything we've been practicing. But if we don't train in those pressure moments, if we don't train under that stress and anxiety sometimes, then we don't get in the reps that we need. So it's much more challenging to perform. And when we don't then meet our goals, our expectations, because people have lofty expectations of themselves, then we've let ourselves down. And that's when doubt creeps in. That's when the frustration creeps in. And those things cloud your judgment, right? Are they necessarily bad altogether? No, we need a little bit of them, but they cloud your judgment. And so being able to, one, have a plan in place, two, have strategies to be able to attack each one of those areas, and then three, setting up an environment where you can actually train for that, it's key. And I would be lying if I didn't say that there's so much overlap from the mental side of things to the physical side of things. There's so much overlap, but that's because it's not something that's separate. We're talking psychology when we're talking about a mental approach to any given moment, to just straight competing. There's so much overlap, and they need to be trained together, right? Yeah. So we teach those skills to, whether it is the goal setting, whether it is resiliency training, whether it is shifting your focus, managing those emotions, across the board, we have to, create a plan to be able to train those. And we train those in yes, a physical environment. There's so much intertwining that happens there from the mental to the physical that, it's almost to the point, just with the way the industry is shifting in psychology in general, but then just in athletics, right? It's almost to a point where coaches, teams, parents are realizing that, yes, I can train as much as I need to physically, but we also have to have that mental component in there. Yeah. Period. Otherwise, we're missing something. We don't have maybe the edge. We've got a gap in our training, and we're not as prepared as we can be for the challenges that we're facing every day. And I mean, it's the same as when we're sitting here at work, right? It's easy to get distracted by things, but can we train our focus to be able to dial in when we need to? It takes training. It doesn't just happen automatically.
You talked about one-on-ones, kind of seeing your client. What type of skill levels do you work with, and how exactly do you see your clients, whether a FaceTime or a one-on-one session, all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so really the how, are able to teach those skills, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I sit down with really a couple different options. Sometimes I'll sit one-on-one with individual clients, right? Where it's at a younger age, sometimes parents are involved in that session. Sometimes it's just the two of us. And we'll sit typically in an office environment, right? Not too stuffy, but I've got a whiteboard in my office. I mean, we're talking through, the skills, the strategies that we can take, right? Super typically try to make the environment as comfortable as possible. But I'll sit one-on-one with clients, and then I also do like group team workshops. The majority of those are off-site. Maybe I'll go to a practice and we'll apply a couple things during practice, or maybe we'll do, right after practice, take 45 minutes to an hour to really discuss a topic that the coach feels is necessary, or that they feel like they need in order to grow for that season, prepare for the season, that kind of thing. And in doing that, the majority of the time, whether I speak with a coach prior to, a parent prior to, or it's straight cold, they walk into my office, I spend generally the first at least 15 minutes or so just trying to understand the situation, trying to understand where we're already doing things to train, and where some of those gaps are that we really need to fill. And then we start to build together, because I truly believe that in any given situation, the person sitting across from me is really the expert in what they're doing. They're the ones who are dealing with it every day, right? I've got a whole toolbox of options. I can't guarantee that everything's going to work for you. So we've got to figure out together what's the right path. It's almost like being a guide, and then we adjust as needed. But so we'll sit down and we'll come up with a plan of attack, and a couple areas, build really a foundation, and then we adjust off of there.
Would you say that people coming in for the yips, is it, because I feel 90% of the people that come in want the quick fix because they're struggling. They want it done now. Any parent coming in wants their child to be better now, which is what I would want. I don't have kids yet.
Yeah.
But that's what I would want, especially for my younger sisters.
We need to fix the problem now.
Yeah. What would you say the balance is between like the quick fix of the yips or something like that versus like long-term performance progression?
So in the term quick fix, I don't think it exists.
Yeah.
Can we have improvements? Can we see tangible improvements, no matter how small they are, pretty immediately? Absolutely. If we're doing it the right way, and we're training in that, we might see just a slight shift in perspective, right? Now, instead of being so closed down every time we make a mistake, maybe you see that your child picks their head up, is closed down a little bit, but picks their head up and maybe responds a little bit of a different way. Yeah. There was an improvement. 9 times out of 10, I get a text within a week that says, okay, I improved in these areas. I still want to get better. I still need to train them, right? It's like with anything physical, it's going to take time. So the term quick fix doesn't really apply. However, you can see those improvements. And a lot of people do. I mean, I'll be honest with you, if it's a parent calling in for their athlete, typically they've seen their athlete struggle and they don't like seeing them struggle. Yeah. And we need to figure out a way to get them not to struggle, or just to have them better prepared for life, because life sucks sometimes, right? If it's an athlete showing interest, typically it's because they're struggling. They've tried several things and they just can't seem to do it by themselves, right? If it's a coach calling in, usually it's because they want an edge over their competition and they really just want to, dial it up a notch, right? A lot of people do come in initially for something that they're trying to fix, and a lot of times it's hard to make it tangible. But then the goal is, yes, can we have skills? Can we train certain aspects in order to improve in that one problem area? But can we also lay the foundation for long-term growth? I mean, that is the ultimate key, right? Because I know we talked about this last week. When we're talking confidence doesn't just come from, hey, I need you to write down all the things you need to be confident about, and boom, we're going to have it. It just doesn't work that way. I can even sit here and I can build your confidence. We can talk through what are the things, why should you be confident, right? I can help open your eyes to a new perspective, to see what you already have inside you, right? But confidence doesn't stand alone. So we have to build the other things. And by creating, sometimes it is I need this problem fixed. Let's fix this problem. I'm good to go, right?
Yeah.
But the majority of time, while people will come in initially for that, we're also building so much more than that. Just being able to be prepared for the things, the adversity that life throws at you, because it's easy to do those things when life is easy,
Yeah.
when the situation is easy, when things are going your way. It is so hard when it's not.
What kind of sports do you cover and work with?
Sports specifically,
Mhm.
so see a lot of softball, baseball players, some basketball, a lot of gymnasts and cheerleaders when it comes to specifically dealing with overcoming mental blocks and being able to compete. We've got some soccer players, some volleyball individuals, and then teams as well. We've had some football players come in, whether it's running backs, kickers, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
A handful of quarterbacks as well. Across the board, obviously golf. Like I gotta throw that one in there because that's a sport where most people have already been, have an understanding that the mental side is important.
Yeah.
But across the board, I mean, I've seen those are like the main sports, but then I've also seen, tennis players, equestrian, like I said, dancer. I've got a ballerina that it is, again, performance it transcends, just sport. It does.
One of the questions that we get a lot is, all right, I'm having this issue with shooting free throws. Do I need a shooting coach or do I need a mental coach? What would you say to that?
Yeah, so and then this is not just in basketball, this is in, a lot of sports, but in basketball specifically, I'm struggling shooting free throws. Do I need a physical shooting coach tell me this is what you need to do? Do I need a mental coach? First question I would ask always is, are you training the mechanics of your shot? Is your shot, have you put in enough hours into that for it to become automatic? If it's not, we can do all the amount of deep breathing, confidence, settling your nerves down that we want, but if the mechanics aren't automatic, not going to happen. So those reps, the physical reps absolutely have to happen in order for us to build on that, right? Now, are you ever really done with that? Absolutely not. You still see, NBA guys sitting up there and shooting their free throws, right?
Yeah.
But then the next question is, are you training it in like you would when you're under pressure, right? So are we just shooting a ton of free throws? I see guys all the time go in there, shoot 15, 20 free throws. That is not at all situational for what you'd see in a game, right? In a game, it may be, maybe we're talking like the last 2 minutes, we're down by 2, and you've got to get up there and you got to hit both of them, right? That's a pressure situation. So are we training in that environment? And if we're training in that environment, then are we able to control emotions? Are we able to drop expectations and just deal with the situation as it is? Are we able to control our breathing? Are we able to narrow in our focus when we need to? Or are we paying attention to everything that's going on around us in that situation? If we're not training that, that's a mental piece of it. Always has a physical component to it, but there's a mental piece of that as well. And then step further, are we training how we respond when we don't hit that first shot? Can we step back up to the line and be able to hit the second? Can we recover and play a good defense so that we give our team a chance to even score again? Those situations, yes, how we're training, but then also what's going on psychologically during that moment, right? When anxiety rises, when pressure rises, when not just the pressure of the moment of the situation from coach, from teammates, from the crowd, but more how we interpret that and the pressure that we then add onto ourselves. And can we appropriately apply the psychological skills that are necessary to be in that moment, to be as prepared as possible, to be able to hit a shot, right? Or even just give ourselves an opportunity to hit one, because a lot of times it's not fully under our control. That's the mental piece of it.
So do you think that physical versus mental, because you said the physical component has to be there before you can kind of work on the mental. Can that happen at different ages for different people?
Oh yeah. Well, it can happen simultaneously too, right? In a lot of what I've seen, especially with younger athletes, right, if we're working through confidence, sometimes players don't know how to train, right? How to train to be able to transfer that to a pressure situation, So it may, yes, we need the reps in, but we need the reps in, at the right time. The older that they get, the more we are training some of those game-like situations, how our body feels, what's going through our heads, those emotions of it. But early on, I mean, you can have a little bit of both. It's just going to look a little bit different. But ultimately, we are doers, 100%, the physical piece of it, but there's a thinking component to it. There's an emotion component to it. And all of those interact, and they interact differently depending on who the individual is.
Okay, so this goes into the next question, which says, I'm 12 years old. Do I really need help working on my mental game, or is the physical game more important right now?
Yeah. So at 12, great opportunity time as far as age-wise. And in the majority of sports, they have a little bit of a better understanding of what's happening, right? And it's actually the ideal time, we typically say, to start introducing some of the psychological topics that we're talking about. So yes, I am an athlete and a coach who focuses on do. Let's get in the reps. Let's do the physical. So that's really important. And that again has to happen. You don't step away from that, right? But at that age, it is the perfect time for us to start talking about, how do you want to train? When you're at your best, what are the things that you're doing? What are the things that you're thinking? Are you settled down? Are we relaxed? Are we tense? Okay, if that's what we're aiming for, how can we now influence those? What are the things that we can do in order to put ourselves in that position to be able to have the best opportunity for success? At 12, yeah, absolutely. If we're waiting, I mean, there are people who have come in and seen me in their mid-30s. I'm not saying, I don't think that there's an ideal starting time, right? And there's also, it's great if we can get them as early as possible. It's the same with anything else, but you're not going to, and it might not even be that they need it that early. But if you can start introducing some of those topics, whether it is through reading, whether it's through videos, whether it's through sitting down one-on-one with someone like me, or even to the fact of, this has probably been 2 years ago, I went and at a request of one of the trainers, went and worked with an 8-year-old boys baseball team. And they said, look, we're having trouble getting them to recover from mistakes. They're out there crying, they're out there getting frustrated, and then it's taking us the next 5-10 minutes to get them settled down. So went out and talked to them. It was like 15 minutes, super, super simple. Here are the points we made. 1, I don't care if you get mad. Get mad. We need you to, right? 2, we have to find a way to get back in the here and now, right? So maybe we just take a deep breath, right? 3, we got to take that and throw it away and focus on the next play, right? So what we did was, just in those 15 minutes, we talked through that. Now, is that as deep as I'm going to go with a collegiate athlete or a professional athlete? Absolutely not. It's not necessary at that time. However, if we introduce these things early, whether it is through a team environment, group environment, through a parent, through watching videos on YouTube, or if it's one-on-one sitting down with someone like me, then we have that foundation. They have a brief understanding, a surface level understanding, and then they can go and apply that, and then we just build as they get older too.
So what would you say to the parent whose worry is my child too young to bring into a mental skills consultant?
What I would say is, it's less about age and more about, do you think that they can handle what we're talking about and have and understand? It's different for each practitioner, right? My goal when I'm sitting down with anyone is, whatever we are speaking about, I have to meet you on your level. So I'm going to make sure, I don't care what age you are, what we're talking about, it's going to be on your level, right? However, even though there have been some 8-year-olds I've worked with, it's been maybe a shorter period of time where we're just introducing that topic. I don't think, younger than 8, I haven't seen anybody younger than 8. And so that would present a little bit of a different challenge. Some of the things, kids grow out of, right?
Yeah.
Just because of what they're exposed to, what they experience. But if it seems to be a persistent problem, maybe it's with emotions, right? And being able to control emotions. Maybe it's with just the perception of when I make a mistake, oh no, like this, everything's falling down around me, right? And their response to that. If it's a persistent problem, let's spend an hour. Let's talk through it. But if parents know their kids best, if you feel as if they might go through it, give them a little bit of time. Let's see if it's persistent. I've had people call in and say, I think they're too young. What does this look like? And then a year later, they're coming back because they see, okay, it's persisting, right? It's continuing on, and we really got to nip this in the bud before they get too old, and then it becomes a habit, right?
And one of the last question is, in the last week, what were the general reasons people came in to work with you?
Okay, in the last week, I had a baseball player who came in for consistency and in training, a consistent level of effort, attitude, in training and in when they're playing games, right? On top of that, we were also working on how do we respond when those mistakes do happen. I had a coach from a team contact me who, again, just wanted a little edge on their competition, wanted to figure out a way, how can I best prepare my team to win a state championship? I've seen you've been working with other teams, what can we do to push our team to the next level. I also had a soccer player who was partially returning from injury, has been kind of out of the recovery process for a little bit, but has some hesitancy in how she's playing and how she's attacking, right? And then also just in order to prepare for the recruiting process, I also had an 18-year-old baseball player who was struggling with the yips. And then another male golfer who called in who was more focused on how can I prepare for college? I'm about to transition. I know the competition level is going to be higher. I know expectations are going to be higher. What's the best way that I can prepare? So in that situation, we weren't dealing with here's the problem. We were dealing with how can I be better prepared? Yeah. And those are just some of the examples of a few of them.
So different genders,
yes,
sports,
absolutely,
skill levels,
absolutely,
profession.
Yes.
I mean, you had a coach call in, so pretty much.
Whether it's a team, individual, males and females, I mean, age. So that's, when I'm thinking about it, the individual wise, it was 10-year-old to 21-year-old, I think. Yeah. So, it's aside from the coach technically, but we're, across the board.
Yeah.
Across the board. Again, performance is performance is performance.
That's all the questions we got for this week.
Fantastic. Well, thank you guys so much for hopping on. Again, today we were just really talking through what the heck I do, right? What it looks like, what are the kinds of people that, we work with, that kind of thing. So please feel free, if you've got any questions at any point in time, send them in. I would love to hear them. We'll hopefully be on again next week and keep rocking and rolling. So thank you guys.